Get ready to uncover the truth and reality behind California politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Uncover California. I'm your host, Lori Mills. Here we delve into the underbelly of politics and news that sometimes doesn't get talked about in the mainstream media. I did want to update you guys on the Central Committee race. I think you remember a couple episodes ago, we had a few candidates in here and we were talking about why we were running, how our committee really wasn't working with us no matter how hard we tried. Well, let me tell you, March 5th was amazing. We basically swept the committee. There's only 3 incumbents left. Everybody else has been fired. So get ready to win because we're going to be working hard for you, the people, and the candidates. On today's episode, I'd like to introduce you to someone I will honestly say I loved. Such a dear friend. And he was caught up on January 6th. He's been persecuted unfairly, and I wanted him to have a chance to tell you his story. Welcome to the show, Siaka, Massaquoi.
Hey, what's up, Laura? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Can I just say this is amazing? I know this is an upgrade from the last show when you first started doing your show.
Okay, ABC.
Yes, and
we were only on radio.
Oh, that's right. It was only radio, but
Yeah.
you got a little video you kept capturing. But this is just, I mean, everyone who's watching, like, this is dope. Lori
The new
did it. This is cool.
Awesome.
It's
Well,
really cool.
JB Studios is where we record.
Yeah.
They record Open Arms here, and the
Yes.
producers in the studio are probably some of the best people I've ever
Yeah,
met.
they're pretty
so I
cool
am
guys.
honored to be part of their
Yeah.
family.
This is great. This is great. I love it.
So
Yeah.
you and I met while we were running for the state assembly,
Yes.
and we both connected because we were both God-fearing people.
Yes. We both go to Godspeak.
We both go.
That was one of the things that we connect because we saw each other. It was for like candidate night, I think it was.
Yes.
Or like, and so we were there, and you were like, and we just started like rapping and talking to each other, and
We were sitting in the front row
Yes,
together
right.
before we got to talk.
That's right. That's right.
And then I met your wife. It's
Fiance
interesting-
at the time. Yeah, she's like, can you imagine you start dating someone and a few months into it, they're like, I'm running for office. You want to help me? So
Yeah.
she already said yes to marry me, so she was kind of tied in that
Well,
way.
I think you guys are a perfect match anyway.
Thank you.
And if you'd even meet, you guys complement each other.
Yeah.
There's this
Charlotte's
light
great.
in your eyes when you guys are together. And your wife is pregnant.
Yeah. She's like, she could pop any day now, really.
You're going to be a dad.
First time.
It's amazing. Like, you could get a call right now and
Yeah.
have to cut the whole show off because
Right now.
she's ready to go.
Yeah.
Don't, Shar, hang
Not
on.
yet, no,
hang on
no.
just a little bit longer.
We want the gestation period to go to the full amount. I want that baby nice and ripe to come out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see your baby.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't do this anymore, especially here in America, but we decided to wait. So we're going to wait and find out if it's a boy or girl.
Yeah, and I want to know.
No.
Could you just tell me my
Well,
year?
you know
Like,
what's
you
great?
don't even
I don't even know. Char doesn't even know. I think one thing I found out that was great about it was watching people from our moms to friends either tell us they have a gift. That's the best part when people are like, I have a gift. It's a girl. I have a gift. It's a boy. And you're like, all right, well, we'll see who really has the gift or not. And it's kind of
Right.
fun. And then you also get baby advice as opposed to boy baby or girl baby. You just get baby advice, which I think is more full.
Now, have you picked out names yet?
Oh, yeah. Ready to go. I can't do it on
You
the show.
can't tell
Char
us.
would kill me.
I can't.
Char would kill me.
We can't holla you.
No. Please don't. Please don't. I'll get in trouble.
Holla Maher, you know what we're talking
Yes,
about.
about the engagement.
Yeah.
Hala knows about that.
Ooh.
But Hala's mistake got us an engagement party on a boat, so that was fun.
Oh, that's cool. And we love you, Holla.
Yeah, love you,
So,
girl.
okay, so you're an actor.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the film industry?
Well, I've been here in Hollywood since '04. So
Okay.
now it's oh man, October 17th will be officially 20 years when I drove into the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, and you're a conservative actor, which is a whole different ballgame.
Well, and the funny thing is that hasn't been the moniker my whole career, because
Right.
I grew up single mom in Chicago area, so it was the liberal, think tank, if you will, and so I was all that liberal minded, doing everything, and it wasn't until 2016, March 15th, actually, 2016, which happens to be the possible due date of my first child.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was. I walked back into the rooms of recovery, and I started to working on recovering from the hopelessness of being an alcoholic.
Right.
And once I went there, that was the same time Trump was running for office, right? So that November, I'm at the National Black Theater Festival. And actually, it was before November. I want to say September, because he was doing his first debate against the field. And it was wild because, we always remember his first debate. He's taking everyone down. And he actually said one thing that, instead of it just being funny to me, where I'm like, this is cool watching stuffy politicians get it. He said they got to a point when they talked about healthcare.
Right.
And, the talking point on the left is healthcare for everyone. It's a human right. On the right, it's like, no, that's going to destroy our country, right? But there's never really a solution put in there. What I usually see, and we've talked about this, where you see from the Republican side, they're always responding to as opposed to coming up with, right? And so in that moment, Trump then raises his hand. He goes, I got an easy solution. You put the cost, of insurance on the open market, and you let the market decide. That'll lower costs in a heartbeat. I was like, they're gonna kill him.
Right.
I'm like, this guy's talking real solutions. And I was like, just that alone, where he's not saying the two just talking points on each side, that alone was like, I'm like, okay, he's my guy.
Wow.
And that happened at the same time. And so I was not really an open conservative, if you will, but I was growing in recovery, which grew me closer to God, closer to responsibility, closer to it's really on you, not on the world.
Right.
And then I'm watching his policies work. I'm watching the country actually do better, but I'm also watching people lose their mind because I'm in the industry.
Right.
I'm watching people huff and puff. I'm watching people say, I punch a Nazi any day, right? I'm watching people call individuals working directly with people for years, call people who would wear the red hat, the red MAGA hat, akin to a Klan's hood. And these people were saying this around me because their unknown racism really thought, well, because I'm a black guy from African name, that I would never be, so they could say anything. I've really grown up being able to bounce into different worlds because people would just assume. And so I would hear them say these things. So I was actually being pushed further away from that world because I'm like, you guys say you're good people and this is how you're talking about individuals. That my best friend has been conservative his entire life. And he's had my back more than anybody in the world, maybe outside of my mom when I lived with her. I'm godfather to his children. But yet I hear people that claim that they care about people talk blindly about individuals like myself at the end of the day and my best friend who's had my back. So I'm like, something's off. So I was really pushed away from it. And it was probably around July of 2020, watching A Summer of Love, if you will, where I just was done. I couldn't be quiet anymore. I'd been going to Beverly Hills rallies. I've been speaking, but I was kind of hiding it in plain sight. But an African friend of mine, former friend, we were working on a project with about horror stories from out of Africa to tell and pitch this idea to Netflix. So can make like a little mini series, right? Instead of race swapping and retelling the old stories, but just changing the race and being like, we did it. No, go get the stories from Africa and let's tell those, right? But then she removed me from the project because another person on the project saw pictures of me sitting down on a log in Beverly Hills, sitting down on that Beverly Hills, at the park by the fountain.
Yeah, where they had the rallies.
Where it had the rallies. It was me and 4 other guys. 3 of them were black, 1 was Hispanic. Then the other picture was of me and MAGA Hulk. And she writes to me and goes, we're a pro-black and African group here. We can't work with you anymore.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so let's jump ahead a little bit. It's just mind-blowing to me that
everybody was black. I was like, what?
But you're a white supremacist,
yes,
right?
Yes. The new
It's
black
just
face
insane.
the second new black.
Like when I grew up, in all honesty, my best friend was a girl named Tina Figueroa.
Mm-hmm.
I just never really saw color.
Yeah.
I just didn't. Either people were cool
Or they weren't.
That's
it.
And I almost feel like this cultural Marxism that we're seeing in today's day and age, they're dividing the people.
Yeah, that's why they put everyone in the categories, right?
Right.
And we watched. You were there for the Letter to the American Church.
I have the producers coming in next week.
Yeah, Simone. I love Simone.
Yep, Simone and Rachel.
So I mean, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, please you go check it out. Epoch Times is amazing. And they were in that, and you see it. This is Saul Alinsky. This is Rules for Radicals. They need to categorize everyone. And I mean, since I was in college, the categorization has increased.
Right.
But that's all done by design. So you're in an you isolate yourself.
Yeah. What letter are we on now? Are we on
QT? No way.
Well, it's got
Plus.
to be C.
It said plus. It just says plus.
Okay, so infinity, whatever.
Yeah, infinity, whatever. Which somebody I watched this video and I'm like, the first two are basically you're gay.
Right.
So
Right.
why do you need
Well,
all the
and then-
extra or first three really?
In all honesty, a lot of the gay people I know think
Yeah.
that this is nuts.
Yeah, no, a lot of my gay friends.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine move away from LA because West Hollywood was too much for him.
Yeah, it's just getting too much.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to roll ahead.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to talk to you about first, because I think it ties in a lot of what your family has gone through.
Yeah.
Your mom, your mother, tell the story about your mom, what she experienced in her home country.
Well, so, and this is crazy because my mom told me this story only last year.
Right.
Right. So this after stuff started happening, and she brought it up, and she said that growing up in Liberia, she was born in the late 40s. So, this was probably be around in the 50s in Liberia, West Africa, where my family's originally from. She would say that what they used to do to the opposition leaders there, they would arrest them and they would kill them. And my grandfather, who was the main pastor of the main church in Liberia, which is called Providence Church, he would speak from the pulpit about what was going on in the government. Right? He would speak, and a lot of times it wouldn't be all polite and rosy. Truth is truth. You call out exactly what you see, right? Especially if you're a pastor, like you're leading the flock.
Well,
Like,
as Pastor Rob says, a lie cannot stand in the light of truth.
they can't. And so she told me they came to him and told him to stop speaking about the administration from the pulpit. He said no. And when she was 12 years old, he died in a car crash right after saying no. So while these things can happen, when you see that people are being arrested, locked up, many people are then being killed, and then we know this by gruesome news and shutting down the church, how powerful the church is.
Right.
When there's a warning to the pastor, then he dies in a car crash, if you will, afterwards. So my mom, I was like, "Why, Mom?" I was like, "Man, you never told me this. You're just waiting so long to tell me. Like, it's in the blood to stand up for what's right." Like, she's like, "No, I know. I just didn't want to bring it up," and it really kind of. At first, I was like, you should have told me in my head. And then I thought to myself, I can't imagine losing your father
Right.
because he stood up for what he believed in. And then you see your son kind of going down the same road. And you're just the one in the middle to connect those two.
Right. We'll get into that. So you and I both supported Donald Trump. Proudly still do.
Yep.
We went through Russiagate. We went through Spygate. We went through FISA abuse.
Yep.
We watched BLM burn billions of dollars worth of real estate, destroy their
Small
communities,
businesses.
murder people.
Yep.
Sequoia Turner, young black girl killed in a Wendy's parking lot.
We have Officer
And-
Dorn
and
protecting
David Dorn, yes.
protecting his friend's pawn shop.
And nothing happened to them.
Yep.
We watched Brett Kavanaugh, and our side was angry.
Yeah.
We were angry of the injustice of everything that's gone on. And no offense, we all watched those polls close in the middle of the night, and we watched the Biden vote shoot up, and there were a lot of people that had doubt.
Yeah.
What brought you to D.C. on January 6th? I was supposed to go, but we never went.
Wow.
And I thank God every day we didn't go.
Yeah. For me, the biggest reason I wanted to go was to record what was going to go on. Because
Right.
to me,
Historic.
it was historic. I was like, because we have like everything you just described,
Right.
And then I was going to the Beverly Hills rally, so I was seeing everything there. I was also seeing there was a couple times they ended the rally because of violence that was brought over by Antifa, but they
Right.
never reported that. So we had video. So to me, I'm like, this is a moment in history where everyone can be their own reporters.
And we knew that Antifa would show up.
Of course they would. Of course. I mean, they were doing that before. But at the same time, I went to D.C. before that. I want to say it was in October, November. I got to look back at the dates. But before that, I went to October because it was way before the election. at that time, and it felt like a Freedom America rally there, right? Like,
There
and
were so
everyone's
many
walking
fun
around,
rallies.
and everyone's having a good time, and there was no energy of negativity. After that first big one where you saw like Antifa was fighting people, that second one, they didn't come around because
Right.
people were like, no, we're not going to let that happen. So for me, even going there, I'm like, my experience with going to DC with a bunch of Trump supporters was like, we're protected.
Right.
And so to me, when I was going there, and I even from walking around initially during the speech and getting set up over like close to the Washington Monument to when we began marching over, people were just singing, and it was just like this. It was a great time. Now, even on that moment when everyone's marching to go over there, I hit a point where, like I said, I've been to rallies for almost a year now.
It was cold.
It was cold. It was so cold out there, and I was kind of like, I get it. Like anything I do over there is nothing's gonna. They're not gonna go. You know what? Let's go look back at the election. That's just the way I thought.
Well, see, and I think you as well as I wanted to see the debate on the floor that
Oh, of
day.
course, of course.
And I can't help but say it, but the Democrats prospered more from J6 than
Yes.
we ever did.
Of course.
And they've carried the narrative ever since with their Hollywood productions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Playing it on
they
primetime
stopped the
TV.
debate on the floor and acted like that had never happened before. It happens at every election cycle.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is they stopped the debate on the floor, and these are things that as we go further in the conversation, start to see why it's so important to like get to the vote, right? Get to the polls there, everyone, regardless on if you think your vote matters or not. You need to get there because look at all the effort that is done. That included to not have our system work.
Right.
That's ultimately what it is.
Yeah, because it didn't work.
Yeah. It didn't
You
allow
had-
the process to happen.
You had states that said, hey, we've got problems in our state. You had congressmen with senators actually saying, yeah, we got a problem here. We
Right.
need to send it back to look into this a little
Right.
bit more. And the Democrats did not
They
want
didn't
that
want
to
that at
happen.
all. So what do you do if you don't want that? You cause chaos.
Okay, so you go back to your hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
Then what?
So I go back to my hotel room and I'm like, it's cold. So I hang out, take off my boots, and I'm turning on TV, and I'm there with this girl I was seeing at the time, and I turned on the TV, and I was just like, let me see what the news is saying because I know they're gonna like spin it up out of nowhere. I'm happy we have us singing and dancing
Right.
heading there. So as I turn it on, there's this lady on MSNBC, and she was, and I chose probably the worst channel. That was the most radical one. And so I turned on MSNBC, and she's like, there were two cop cars, I remember driving by, sirens on, and she was speaking, oh, it's a somber moment. There's blood on the ground, and we haven't seen anything like this. I'm like, she's lying. I know she's lying. I just was with those people.
Right.
I'm like, and so the lady I was with was like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to go down there, find that camera person, stand behind him and say, you're lying. You're lying, you're lying, lying. Just be kind of like that crazy guy behind the camera. Now, as I started going down there, let me go back up a little bit. So from where we were by the Washington Monument, heading back to the hotel was about a 25-minute walk.
Right.
And then from that moment, from the hotel, the Marriott across the street from the Freedom Plaza, all the way down to the Capitol is about a 37-minute walk. So by the time I got there, it was about an hour after all of the major things have happened that they keep playing over and over.
And you were on your way, so you didn't know any of
No
that
idea.
had happened.
No idea. In fact, as I was walking up and I saw a lot of people walking back, I just asked them, like, hey, is it over? Everyone left? They're like, no, there's still people there. Again,
So they didn't even know anything was happening.
they said it like what I had just experienced in September, October, those months before. So people were meandering around. There's that one big truck that had like people singing and dancing Trump stuff, So it's like,
It was a party.
yeah, you didn't think anything of it. So I get down there, get closer. As I get closer, I actually bump into a couple of guys from Beverly Hills. And a couple
You
of
saw
guys.
MAGA Holt?
Yep. And there was a couple of guys from the picture that one former friend saw me and said, oh, we support black people and Africans, so we can't support you. It's like nothing but black guys that I ran into.
You're the racist people.
Exactly.
You're going to need to look in the mirror.
Look in the mirror. God bless them because they have their own demons they work through, and I really hope that they get there. But another lady recognized Mag and myself, so we did an interview real quick, and we were close to the scaffold where the American flag was hanging down, and so we like literally right as our interview was coming to an end, they start singing the national anthem. So we're like, we start singing along. And then we're like, oh, well, let's go up and see. Basically, it's let's see. That's really what was going on for most of the people I saw there. People were just like, let's see what's going on. So we go up the scaffold, and then we get closer to the top where the stairs are of the Capitol, and that's when you start smelling a little bit of pepper spray. And like, oh, this thing kind of...
So you didn't know that the rubber bullets were shot
No.
into the crowd?
Nope.
You didn't know they were shooting canisters?
No.
Because I think that incited the violence.
Oh, I mean, and now that I saw from even like from David Summerall, StopHate.com, like timeline video, to Laura Logan is doing FedSurrection.
She's done
some great stuff. Yeah. Now that I've seen it over the last, couple of years after what's been happening to me, I'm like, oh my god, they set everyone up.
And the pipe bomber.
The pipe bomber.
The dog didn't sense the pipe bomb. Did you see that latest video?
That was by Steve Baker was able to drop that, and
Julie
let's
Kelly's
pray for
done
him.
Amazing work.
Julie Kelly.
Darren
Actually,
Beatty.
a friend just sent me some from Julie Kelly, and I haven't seen it yet, so it could be another bombshell. Okay. But you keep seeing. I had no idea, and even seeing the people walking around. When we first got to the top and we're walking there, we see kind of guys lined up in a group. I always tell this story because it's important that I recognize what was happening. There was one guy trying to grab men and saying, "Let's go," like really extra angry. And that's something I've noticed at these rallies. We're never that angry.
Nobody is.
Yeah, they're like, we can get upset at, hey, get out of here, F you too. But we're never, like, he would have rage and he was grabbing people and trying to pushing them forward towards the cops. And guys were like, what are you doing? And I noticed that because in Beverly Hills, we had a week where Antifa came, these kids, and they were kind of, mulling around in our group and debating us and stuff. And the following week when they came, the cops of Beverly Hills had put up partitions on either side of the park. Antifa came coming down like they were the Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings to come and take out the world of men. Like they were all in their gear, all black, everything. You have people on the other side who are, in T-shirts and jeans and just ball caps, moms, grandmothers, and grandfathers, children there. That's the different sides.
Yeah.
But what I noticed is those kids I saw the week earlier, a couple of them were walking around in Trump outfits in USA to be on our side.
Well, and I saw a video of some guys changing into Trump gear.
Oh,
in the bushes.
January 6th. That's why I noticed what happened, because it happened in Beverly Hills.
Right.
When they started yelling at each other, because Antifa got here and they started yelling at us, and a couple guys started yelling back. Those kids got and started yelling back at Antifa to get us riled up. And so I grabbed a microphone, or somebody handed me a microphone. I'm like, we're not here for this. Let's go. We're here to march. We're here to talk, show our love for the country and Trump. We're not here to fight people. There are kids
Let your
here.
voice be heard.
Yeah. I was like, there's grandmothers here. What are you talking about? You're going to fight? Like, that's stupid.
Right.
Let's go. So we left, and they ended up getting kicked out because they started fighting press. But that's what I noticed when that guy pushed forward. The first thing I thought about was that incident. So then I'm recording. I'm like, okay. So I'm recording the building. I'm walking around, and I get to that walkway, that archway that...
Before we get there, we'll roll the tape. Now, let me ask you a question, because I've heard this a couple times. What do you say to people when they say you shouldn't have been there, the building was closed?
No one. First of all, no, it wasn't. Not according to us. It wasn't closed.
Right.
Who said it was closed?
Well,
Shouldn't have been
that's
there.
what the left is saying.
Well, I know. I hear them that they say it, but I go, no, because everything...
There was nothing
There was
there.
no signage that said it was closed. People, like the police that were there, especially by the time I got there, and of course this is like an hour after everything major thing, so things have died down. They weren't telling anyone to leave like forcefully or anything. People were standing on the steps. At one point there was a whole line of cops, and I went up and I was talking to them. Nothing, no response. No one said anything about like, hey, you guys got to get out of here. Nothing.
Okay, so before we get to where you enter the Capitol, I'm going to ask my tech, can you roll tape? And while we roll tape, I want you to walk us through this video.
Yeah.
Roll tape, please.
So if we pause right here, you'll be able to see, like, that's how far in I got.
You were at the threshold.
I was at the threshold, and right here was as far as they were allowing us to go.
Okay.
So I was just like, let me get footage. That's all I was trying to do.
You look really happy. Like,
Wow,
what was on your mind? Like,
honestly, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I was like, to me, I'm like, I couldn't believe people got inside. But then as I was walking into that doorway, as we were getting closer, that's when people said, oh, yeah, they're letting us in this way.
That guy looks familiar.
Yeah, the one, apparently he was handing out poisonous cigarettes. But as you can see, look at the cops. They're just standing there. No one saying anything. So that guy right here, and all geared up, the one right next to him, sorry. He comes up, and then he starts going like, yeah, right there. He points. He goes, I need you guys to go this way. That's when you see me talking, and I turn around, and I go, and I say, you'll see right here. I go, yep. okay, we're being reasonable. We're gonna work it out.
And you're gonna listen to the police.
Yes, and so because he just said it to me, and I go, okay, and I wanted to get that on tape so people could see like that's who I was talking to.
Right.
As soon as that happened, I turn around and you'll hear it here, and the guy's talking to me really quick. He's dropping something. I'm like, okay, so I'll turn. I go, look, we're gonna work it out. We're being reasonable. We're being peaceful, and then I turn back over this way, and I go, all right, guys, go out the other way, and so. That's when we
there were
started.
a lot of people there, so it
was
wasn't
like a
like
big-
you could just walk out.
No, it was imagine going to a concert, you know, when you're going through the metal detectors and everyone's kind of meandering, they're waiting to get their turn.
Right.
It'd be just like that, and then trying to turn around and go the other way. Like there's a crowd of people coming that way. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I've been front row to concerts
Yeah,
before.
so you
and
know
it's
how-
like you feel like you're getting crushed.
Yeah, so it was like
Yeah.
it was the idea was we were first going one way, and then this momentum's coming this way, and then they're telling you to turn back around. So we had to, you know, we're meandering there. It wasn't again. They gave us a directive. That's what I'm like, okay, time to follow it. Everything else I saw leading up to that was like, wow, they're just hanging out over there. They're letting us walk around. They're not tripping about anything. So I thought, I guess nothing that bad happened.
Okay, and how long were you in the Capitol threshold?
71 seconds.
71 seconds.
As far as I know, I talked to one lawyer who had a rabbi who was in there for 5 minutes.
Wow.
Or sorry, 2.5 minutes, I think it was. And she was like, first of all, she read my case, called me back, and started laughing because she was like, "Is this real?" I was like, "Yeah." And she said 71 seconds on. She goes, "You may be the shortest amount of time they've gotten anyone who walked into the Capitol." I'm like,
Okay, so after you were in the threshold, what happened?
so after the threshold and they told us to leave, I walked around the other way,
Just checking it out.
just checking it out. And so I'm recording. And as I'm recording, and you can see in the video that I sent you, like I'm telling them, like there was two guys who were standing there. Now I found that like they were probably feds because they were fully masked up, right? So I was like, hey, this way. So I walk around this way and I'm just recording. I'm like, man, look at this. People were pissed. That's what I even said. I was like, wow. I mean, look,
and
I'm
they
not
were.
gonna,
People
yeah.
were. I mean, we put up with 4 years of bullshit.
Of lot, and then
Sorry, Lord.
but the ultimate gaslighting when you saw communities get burned down. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I was done hiding was because they were burning down and they were destroying Chicago, the South Side especially.
Right.
At the time, my 74-year-old mom was living there,
Wow.
and by herself. And right around the corner from the house from the apartment, a 6-month-old was shot in the stroller middle of the day.
I remember that.
So that's middle of the day.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second. And then I start to find out that from Kamala Harris to John Legend and his wife and other celebrities, they were establishing bail funds for these people who were causing this chaos.
Right.
But yet I'm being scared to speak up. I'm being scared to stand up for what I see is wrong, stand up against what I see is wrong.
Right.
No, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm just done.
Well, you have a First Amendment right.
Yeah.
And you wanted to practice it.
Yeah. And I was over being scared of these people.
You had no idea you were going to be in trouble for this.
Oh God, no! If anything, what I wanted to do was be louder about being there and record as much as possible, so that
you could document it.
So that if anyone tried to be like, "No, you did this," I'm like, "No, I didn't."
I got video.
I got video. Actually, Instagram took down my video that I posted after when I was walking away from the Capitol and almost back to my hotel. When I was like, "Yeah, they're gonna say," I even said it. I was like, "I'm under something. This is the people's house. They are going to act like we were being super violent. We weren't, because that wasn't my experience there."
Well, because you had just seen what happened on that news report as well.
And so they were just trying to say, and so I'm like, that's the only thing I had was that news report that didn't show anything. My experience going there an hour later and then coming back, and I'm going, I know they're lying. Why? Because they have been lying for the last ever,
Well, I found out the media lied in 2011 when I loved Ron Paul, and I watched what they did to him, and that's when I knew they lied.
Yeah.
And so I didn't fall into a lot of that trap. Okay, so you leave, you come home. Tell me about the day that you were raided.
Well, so I come home and then you start hearing about and seeing that people were getting raided. The first thing that really kind of worried me about the moves they were going to make on people was a lot of people forget that a few days later, after January 6th, the House tried to pass a resolution to call all MAGA terrorists. And if they had, that means then the Department of Homeland Security moves completely differently, and we lose a lot, if not all, of our constitutional rights.
Well, and that's Obama passed the NDAA originally, and that's why we saw so many people that were at January 6th in solitary confinement for years with no attorney, no due process.
No due process, yeah.
But here you were, 71 seconds.
Yep. So I go, I'm starting to see this stuff happen to other people. And I'm like, well, I'm loud. I'm in people's faces like I'm not doing anything wrong. And even, so there's this one guy who, his criminal complaint is one of the reasons why they even arrested me. His name's Russ Taylor, and he's an informant for the FBI now, and he's been working with them for a while. He was one that you could tell through stuff, like he set it up, and all this stuff's out there. People can go see it for themselves. Like he was trying to get people entrapped in his own way, just like I've seen footage of police officers entrapping people there that day. So I guess he was part of the complaint, and
He pointed at you?
Yeah. Yep. And so then you also have, here's the funny thing about it. So we knew that, and the Revolver report is what put it out. Anyone who stepped foot on the Capitol grounds, their phones were automatically pinged. Boom. So as soon as you step foot on there, boom, our friend Mark Ibrahim was just on the grass.
Yet they won't let us use that for election interference evidence.
No, not at all. Because
and that's the same. Exactly. That's the same thing.
Exactly. But they can't have that. So, and I called Russ. Somebody hit me up in January after he had gotten raided, and that's when everyone was like, "Oh man, I can't believe they got that guy, family man and all this stuff working for tech companies." And so a friend of mine hit me up and was like, "Contact him. He's really feeling terrible, right?" And I called him, and the thing I kept saying over and over, because we watched everything you mentioned, from Russiagate to everything they were saying about Trump.
We were all pissed.
But not even just that. Everything they were saying about Trump was a lie.
Yes.
And they were telling his story instead of Trump telling his story. So I said this to Russ. I go, "Hey man, if you did nothing wrong, tell your story. Right. This can galvanize so many people to see what you're going through because it's so wrong." He never did.
Wow.
So why would I say that if I knowingly did anything wrong?
Right.
Why would I give that to advice to someone else? So let's fast forward to June 10th, when they, I had about 15 agents.
What time was it?
It was about 5:45 in the morning.
So you're asleep.
Knocked out. And I start to hear, FBI, FBI, like, what's going on?
Scary.
Now, my best friend, who, the way my house is shaped out, I'm in the furthest back of the house. He's in the furthest front of the house. Mm-hmm. So he heard them coming up, and he's knocking on the door, and he's like, "Oh no!" So because he has his two boys with him at the time,
How old
3
are
and
kids?
6.
3 and 6 years old.
3 and 6. So he goes to the front door. They have their guns drawn. He just puts his hands out, like, "Yo, I'm just putting my hands out. What's going on?" They grab him, slam him against the wall. Now
and he wasn't even there.
He wasn't even there. But everyone in the house, because it's a raid, right? Everyone in the house has to be grabbed. So the window,
What about the kids?
The window that was facing the front door where he was coming, that window is his bedroom. And so his boys watched this happen to their father. Then the cops come in, or the FBI come in. They remove one. They had a couple who were living in the other room. They grab the kids. As they're doing this, that's when I start hearing them in the house. And I'm like kind of waking up, and it's like,
you're asleep.
I'm asleep. And I remember thinking, if I hear it clear, I'm like, "You have got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me." And I get up, and I usually sleep in underwear, but for some reason, God told me to put sweats on the night before. And so I happen to have sweats on, right? No shirt, no shoes. But as I open
God
the door,
seems to tell you what to wear a lot.
I know.
We'll get there.
Well, seriously, it's crazy. And I open the door, and then boom, 2 agents had their guns pointed right at me and saying, "FBI, put your hands up." And my dog, Ginger, runs out. And all I could say was, "Please don't shoot my dog.
Don't shoot.
Please, my shoot." Because I'm like, at this point, you're going to shoot me if I do anything else. But then listen, I'm like, "Please don't shoot my dog. They're friendly dog. Ginger's running around. And they grab me, cuff me, take me outside as I'm, yelling, "I want to see the warrant. We'll give it to you after we check the house." I only saw, by the time I'm going outside, there were a bunch of cars out there. I didn't see anyone I knew except for the youngest. He was in the arms of one of the agents being put in the car. That's the only thing I saw at the time.
And they needed to make sure your neighbors all
Yeah.
saw this,
Oh, yeah.
that it was a big spectacle.
Yeah.
They couldn't just call you and say, "Hey, come down to the station. We want to talk to you."
Not at all. Not at all. I don't know why. I do know why in the long run.
Well, we know secondhand now, too.
Because 2 days after that raid, you had the LA Times, you had the Daily Mail, you had I think it was Tribune. I had people calling from Evanston, where I grew up, or it was Netflix actor rated. And if you ever read the article, it just says I was there. But then the other thing it says is he's known for going to rallies and telling people to run for local office. Like that's the only thing the article said. Yeah, I know, right?
That's just shameful.
But it was about the headline,
right?
That's what it was about. It was about making sure my name gets sullied. And when the FBI were trying to talk to me, I remember saying, "Look, I'm not a rich man, but I will fight to the death for my name."
Right.
And so I've told them that. I told people that before who tried to sully my name. And I go, look, there's things I've done, whether I got a DUI back in college and been a crazy drunk, not the best boyfriend. There's things I've done where I've like, oh, okay, I did it. But to know you didn't do anything, especially to the level to have 15 agents with their guns in your face.
Pulling children out of the
house. It angered me in such you were violated. You were violated. And they ended up taking my computer, my cell phone, my flash drives with my old acting headshots on it, my AA journal, and they took my MAGA hats. And I'm like,
they needed those.
Well, I even asked him. I said, "Well, why do you take my MAGA hats, man?" He goes, "Well, that's what we saw. We saw you with it on CCTV." And I was like,
so stupid.
It's so dumb. And when they finally gave me the warrant, I was like, I need to see the warrant. They just gave me the cover letter, the cover paper. So they didn't even give me the full warrant. When I finally got in contact with a lawyer and we reached out to them a week and a half later, the DA says, the U.S. attorney said, your client doesn't deserve to know. And we're
Isn't that a violation of your rights?
We believe so. So then we filed a complaint against the FBI and the agents. And that went through the process for 2 years, got all the way up to the Ninth Circuit Court. I was supposed to have oral arguments in August. Remember, I was talking about I was going to have oral arguments. A week before I was going to have oral arguments, they canceled it. My oral argument. They removed the judge who gave me the permission for oral arguments, put in 3 liberal judges, a Carter, Clinton, and Obama judge. Then they denied it, and then wrote, you should have went to the executive branch to complain.
So you got no due process.
Nope, not on that. And then when they came and raided me, I was never arrested or charged with anything that day.
Right.
So for 2 years, 2.5 years actually, I've been, of course, they've been watching me. Like, I know that. Like, everyone knows that. Once they raid you, of course, keeping their eye on you.
And now that you're classified under the Obama administration as a terrorist.
Domestic, yeah. I mean, well, loosely, right? Because every time I fly,
they follow you.
They not only do they follow me, but I can't check in the night before. I have to go to the front desk so they can verify my identity. Then they ask me if I'm flying with anyone and if anyone else. And if anyone else was flying with me, and this has happened to Charlotte, my wife, this has happened to people I've worked with as professionally. Anytime I fly with someone else, they search them just like they search me. I go through TSA, they give me the full body pat down, they just go through all my stuff. When I get to the gate, they do the same thing again. So if I have to, let's say,
you've just been violated and violated
every time I fly.
And violated.
Yes. Every time I fly. I just had a trip. 2 trips in the last 2.5 weeks for work, and every time, and on that, we found out now through Operation Quiet Skies, I also have 2 air marshals following me. And when I tell you following me, they come in, and I watch them now because now I can spot them. They kind of randomly, they split up, so they sit each on like different sides, so they can always have an eye on me. They're just kind of staring. They even do go to a point where you see them just randomly take a picture of you. Take a picture of your stuff.
And yet at the same time, they're letting illegal immigrants
wide open
go
anywhere in the country.
Not even through TSA.
No.
And just put them on an airplane.
Yep. And so, but they're having agents, they're having air marshals follow me. Like literally, I've seen their guns on their hip. I've seen their guns on their ankle. I've seen them walk, and I get up and I walk and sit behind them because I'm like, yep, and I'll
you should
smile.
just come up and say, hey, how's it going?
I've tried. They don't respond. They don't talk. And it's like, literally, I'll be walking from, if I have a layover, walk from one place to the next. I'm watching this guy follow me,
right,
and put up the phone to make sure they see who. And I can't tell you enough how ridiculous and how intrusive and how disgusting this stuff is. Because look, at the end of the day, I believe most conservatives just want to be left alone.
Right.
And at the very least, okay, we'll pay taxes and make sure things are running. At the very worst, being followed for not doing anything, you can't just, I've been flying by myself since I was 7. In the last 3 years, I'm checked every single time. Every single time. I have to get to the airport now twice as early because I don't know how long it's going to take for my verification, which has had me miss planes. Right. 45 minutes to an hour that it takes just to verify me.
That's insane.
Then I got to go deal with the TSA.
Okay, so after all of this, I actually had you and a friend over and your wives over for dinner. And I remember we had a conversation that God has us here for a time such as this. Yes. And not a week later, I get a phone call from a friend of ours saying they've arrested Siaka. And I went, excuse me? They've got his attorney's phone number. They have his phone number. Why did they not just call him? And the next morning, and I didn't know all the details, I'll admit, but I put out a tweet because we're going to the arraignment.
Yeah. And,
I put out a video which actually kind of went viral. It was probably the most viral tweet I had ever done. It caught fire, and I think that's the beauty of your case, is the attention that it is received, including Elon Musk retweeting it. So you were at the movie premiere for Lady Ballers, which you were an actor in. Mm-hmm. Tell us the story of what happened through that whole process. And I'm going to explain what I saw from my side in the courtroom too.
Okay, please, because
you weren't in the courtroom.
Yeah, no, there was other things happening, and Shar, kind of helped me with some of that part of the story, which is wild.
It was great.
It
wasn't great,
but it was the Lord great.
Yeah.
So we had. We went to, it was the 28th, we flew to Tennessee for the premiere of Lady Ballers. They, paid for my wife and I to go. This is going to be our last trip before she has a baby, because hitting the third trimester, you don't want to travel like that.
Right.
And so, we go there, we have a great time. The night before, we take our photo that, now we use for our gifts and go. We take our photo, and it was like a beautiful night. It was an amazing night. The movie was funny. Everyone was in great spirits. I got to hang out and chat with Jeremy Boring, and I'm meeting I knew Seth Dillon. I know Seth Dillon, so we're hanging out there. Michael Knowles. Everyone's having a great time, cracking jokes with Ben Shapiro. All these guys are there, and we're having just a ball.
Right.
And we were able to, even Ted Cruz was there, and we're able, because Ted Cruz, the girl who played my wife Chandler in California, Texas, we technically worked together in California, Texas, but they filmed it separately. So we were there we're on the red carpet. We even did a little video together and everything. It was just a blast. So the next day we were flying back, and the funny thing is, Amber Coyle, who was in the movie as well, who played the one that shocked Jeremy, she was on our flight back. And she's like, hey, did you see the new Babylon Bee sketch? And I had just shot one that was called Malarkey, which we made fun of. The main character was just saying everything that Joe Biden had said. Those were his lines. Everyone else was saying everything else. So we were just making fun of that. And I was just about to watch it, and I couldn't get into the video because our flight took off and our internet was lost. I was like, I'll watch it later.
Right.
Little did I know, right? So we're coming back, and we end up landing at Orlando Burbank Airport. Amber and Char were in front of me as we're walking off the plane. They get off first. As soon as I touch my foot down on the tarmac, because Burbank's a smaller airport, this one female agent from FBI comes. She's like, Siaka Massaquoi. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're under arrest as FBI. You're coming with us. Two agents jump on my shoulder, my arms to grab me. Another guy comes over. So it's 4 agents and 4 airport police. We're just standing there. Airport police were just kind of like, we're just kind of here. The FBI's they were the one on it. So they grab me, and I'm like, whoa, what is this for? And the guy's like, you know what this is for. I go, no, what is this for? You're going to tell me why you're arresting me.
And perp walking you through an airport.
No, this is restaurants on the tarmac at this point. So they just had me sitting there, and the guy's like, look. And then one guy's like, it's for January 6th. He was really kind of freaked out and hyped up, and I could feel him shaking.
Because he's got that freaking mentality, and probably been listening to CNN.
He's been drinking it, because the other guy was chill. The other guy was like, dude, come on. You feel like I'm not tensing up. There's 4 FBI agents and 4 police officers. What am I going to do? Right? Seriously, I'm not. If I was Superman or Wolverine, maybe I'll do something, but not there. And I'm standing there. He's shaking while he's holding me. And I'm like, what it's for? He goes, he's like, for January 6th. I go, I didn't do anything on January 6th. And the other guy's like, don't say. He's like, don't talk about it. I go, he brought it up, And then I'm like, look, I'm pissed off. I can be pissed off that you guys are doing this, because you didn't have to do it like this. Right. You could have called me. We've sued you guys for 2 years. You know my lawyer. So you know who to contact. You didn't have to sit there and do all this. Guys like, well, look, Siaka, come on.
Do you think that they went after you because you sued them and you pushed back?
I think they made a big show out of it because of that.
Okay.
I mean, I think as I'm seeing from other people after and people before me, they're going after everybody who was there. But how they go after people, that's I think varies between.
They got to keep the narrative going.
Exactly. These guys are dangerous. So they have to make a big show. And even in the car, I was sitting there, I was like, I know why you guys did this. I was like, it's ridiculous. You didn't have to do it like this. You didn't have to separate me, but you're doing it so you make a big show so you can get a headline.
And your wife's sitting there pregnant.
She's pregnant. Well, at this point, they're driving me away. I didn't even get to say goodbye to her. They just gave her my stuff and put me in the car.
And thank God your friend was there.
Yeah, thank God. Well, thank God for God. Because the night before, we called our friends Jennifer and Tatum Shank of Hollywood for Freedom. And we were like, they were doing something. We were getting ready for our event, our Mingle and Jingle on that Monday night.
I went.
You're right. Lori was there. And so we had to go and check out the space. And she was going to give me a check so I could pay for the venue. And so they were like, oh, we're going to be in the neighborhood. We'll pick you up. Other than that, we were going to take an Uber back home. So they just happened to be the one to pick us up, and they're like one of the closest friends we have, mentor, like a couple mentor when it comes down to being in the faith and following God as a husband and wife. So Amber was with her at that moment, and then basically walked her to Jennifer and Tatum, and they stayed there at the house with her that night. So she was never alone.
See, and thank God, because Charlotte is she's such a beautiful girl.
Yeah, she is.
And she's so sweet.
So she's the sweetest.
Just this tiny little, just beautiful girl.
Yeah, she is.
And I just couldn't imagine what her heart must have gone through at that moment. And I was hoping she would be here today because I would have loved to talk to her about that. But that's okay. She's going to have a baby.
Yeah, like any day now.
We need to let her keep baking.
Yes. No, and that's the thing I know God has our back. God put this relationship together.
Right.
To see it happen. I mean, Simone can tell you the story because she was the one that said, we need to find you a girl literally a week before her and I met.
Wow.
And all of us go to Godspeak.
Right.
And she didn't know Simone.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's just wild.
Yeah. So ask Simone about that.
Okay.
Like
so
that.
Back to our story. They take you to jail.
Yeah. They take me to jail. Now, because I have been getting harassed at the airport, I decided to wear certain clothing that always kind of talks about the Lord, right? God, bring back God from Stand Up Now apparel. But I was wearing from the Barbarous? I always get his name wrong. But it was this the clothing line that had a cross on the back that had Jesus saves.
Jesus saves you,
right?
If I remember.
And so I'm wearing that. And so they take me in, I have sweatpants and that shirt, and I wear it each side. So like if I'm standing there and they're doing their full check every time, people have to walk by and look over and either see God or Jesus when they're reading it, right? And so that's when they took me in that, and they took me to the jailhouse that night. They said, you're going to spend a night in jail. Now, a lot of people who have gotten raided or picked up, they do it Thursday or Friday so that you have to stay for the weekend. So what they wanted was for me to stay the weekend. Mm-hmm. And apparently it was a holiday that Monday. So I was going to have to Thursday night all the way to Tuesday was going to be how long they were going to eventually have me stay. And it would probably have been until Tuesday evening because of how slow the courts are. Right. So they take me in. I'm complaining. They, at this point, they still haven't shown me what my charges were until I get to the jailhouse, and I'm sitting there, and then the guy goes back in the car because he's like, "Oh, well, we'll show you when we'll get there." And then he ends up giving me or telling me what the charges were and showing it to me. And I'm looking at them, and they're 4 misdemeanors. I'm like, I'm cuffed up. I'm taken away from my wife off the airport at an airport for misdemeanors. Like, it just blew my mind, And the 4 were knowingly trespassing on the Capitol or a restricted area, which, right? Knowingly, it's a knowing element to the disorderly conduct in the Capitol. Knowingly element to disorderly conduct on the restricted grounds.
See, and I didn't see you do anything disorderly.
As soon as they were told what to do, I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, you told the police.
And the last one, which is fun, which is right there, was parading. So that was right there. I was parading, apparently.
Okay.
And those are the 4 they're putting on most people just for being there.
It's ridiculous.
It's
not justice.
It's not at all. If anything, it's lawfare. And it's what they're doing. Any reason to come get you.
President Trump.
Exactly. And they started with General Flynn.
Right.
Right? They started with General Flynn.
Did you know that The guy that was just arrested for January 6th, I think he's with the Blaze or something.
Steve Baker, yes.
Okay. Do you know who his judge is? Emmett Sullivan, the same judge that persecuted General Flynn.
Wow.
Didn't know if you knew that. I was like, that's
Wow.
Emmett Sullivan.
That's a big deal.
That is
That's
a big deal. It's always the same people.
It's always the same people. Wow.
Okay, so let's get back to your story.
Yeah.
You and I could go on.
No. That's wild. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Emmett
Steve.
Sullivan.
Steve's been dropping some good bombs. So pray for him, everyone. So I'm in jail. I'm calmed down a little bit, and then I start talking about God. Right. And I turned to the agents. I was like, "You guys religious?" And the female was like, "No, not really." And then the guy's like, "Oh, I'm a Catholic." And I go, "Oh yeah, are you like most Catholics, or have you read the Bible?" And he's like, "Hey, come on." I'm like, "Well, have you read the Bible?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, then you are." Like, what are you getting mad at me for, man? Like, that's what it is. And so, we kind of joked. I joked with him a little bit, but I was like, "Nah, start with Romans first, and you tell me this isn't the world we're living in, and then go back and start with Matthew. If you want to do Jen, I'm just kind of breaking it down, talking about this." Then they're like, "All right, we'll come get you tomorrow." And then I had to put on the orange jumpsuit for the night in jail. So in jail, I started kind of do a little quick workout, and then I started doing the Lord's Prayer. I was doing it so loud and so consistently, the jailer closed the door into the jail area because she was like, "Nah, I'm good." It closed it, and then when I finally stopped, she came back in and was like, "Hey, do you need anything to read?" I was like, "A Bible if you got it." So she ends up giving me a Bible. I'm literally at night, I read the Bible and fall asleep with it in my arms the first night, that night in jail. Next day, when they came and picked me up at 7 a.m., they take me over to the marshal's office in downtown LA because I was staying in Monterey Park was the jail I had to stay in. So they took me down to downtown LA. And now I'm back in my sweater and my sweatpants. And then, we go in, they process me through there. Even one of the marshals was like, "They're still going after January 6 people?" I go, "Yep." And he's like, "Dang," he was surprised.
And I'll tell you what they said in the elevator.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
we go back in, they put me in a cell. Now at this point I'm in a cell by myself again. First thing I do is I just pray. Thank God for just having my back, looking out for me, pray for Charlotte. Then, they bring us out later on. Time's just moving, and they bring us out to go talk to our lawyer if he had a chance. But to me, my lawyer is coming in from Florida, so I didn't think I was going to see him. And so I go there, I talk to the clerk so that they can set my bail for the judge. Then the public defender comes on like, "No, I have a lawyer." He's like, "Okay, if you need me, I'm there." And then I'm sitting there, I knock on the window, on the door, and the marshal comes by. I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm done, I'm ready to go." He's like, "Well, we're busy, we'll be right back." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "We're not, we don't have enough numbers." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm kind of tired, because you don't sleep well in jail. And now I'm not cuffed behind my back anymore. I'm cuffed to my wrist, to my waist, to my ankle. So I'm shackled now. Now I'm shackling through. And I'm kind of falling asleep. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom, doors open. My lawyer, Larry, comes in. He's like, "Hey, we're here. Don't worry about it. I got a lawyer for you. She loves you. Da-da-da-da. We're going to make this work. Like, we're going to get you out tonight." I'm like, I'm just shocked that he's there in the first place. And I'm like, "Thanks, Larry." And I'm trying to touch the window. He's like, "I got you, brother." And so he leaves, and I'm just so full of joy. I don't know anything else to do except I get on my knees, and I put my hands up, and I start singing the song "Gratitude" by Brandon Lake. Because I'm like, all you have is a hallelujah, so that's what I'm going to give right now.
Right.
Then they took us out, put us back in, and they were getting ready to transport us over. Now, when they were getting ready to transport us over, there was this white dude who was like 6'2", thick, big dude, tatted up all over from like the neck down.
Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah, he was doing 18 years, and he was and I found this out later, but he apparently had stabbed a guy the year before. Because the guy attacked him, he was like, "Well, I was trying to defend myself, but I stabbed him really good." I was like, "Oh, okay." But before that, I see him and I'm just like, "Oh man," like tall white guy. Like I always like to tell people, if you could cast like the perfect prisoner guy for white supremacists, it'd be him, right? But he had grown his hair. I got a little beard, underbite, and so I'm walking. The way to position us, I'm in front of him. So I'm in front of him, and I start walking. I'm still wearing that shirt.
Right.
And he goes, "Hey, man, nice shirt." I'm like, "Oh, yeah? Well, Jesus saved my life." And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I start talking God. And he goes, "Oh, man, I started reading the Bible too." Da-da-da-da-da. He starts talking God. We go into the elevator. We're just talking God. It's like us and three other guys, right? So it's 5 of us all together. We get in the van talking God. one of the other guys kind of starts chiming in. We're talking God, and we start talking Lord of the Rings trilogy and Count of Monte Cristo, and so we start talking novels. Get back to God. So then we get to the courthouse, and they have to walk us through the courthouse. And the way it was lined up, I happen to be the last person. Now, at this point, I'm just thinking like my wife and the lawyer is going to be there. And so they're coming through, and we're going, and I shuffle through, and I look over, and I get the biggest shock I could ever get. I look over, and I see you.
We're all there.
And I see Tish, and I see Roxanne Hogue, and I see like Eric Early. I see
there was about 15 of us.
15 people there, and what people don't get for a bond hearing, those pews are small. They're not like for 25 people. They're really 15 is filling up the seats.
Yeah, from our side, just let me tell you, because it was pretty interesting. We were all there, and we're watching murderers. Mm-hmm. We're watching drug dealers. And in you come walking in shackled with the Jesus Save shirt. And we all stood up because we were going to stand behind you. Yeah. No matter what.
Yeah. And I felt that.
We love
because
you.
We went in when they put us in there, and I looked over. I didn't even see Charlotte. I saw you guys. And I had to keep it together. And so when I went in there, I'll be real quick with this. I went in, I got into the jail cell. We started talking some more, and then that big dude was like, hey, man, can you pray for us? I was like, me? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I started praying for everyone, and I said, one of the things I said in there was, whether we get a release today or we stayed in here, we know that Jesus Christ has our back as long as we trusted him. So when I finally came out for my turn, I was the last one. I walk out, and I see every one of you guys just stand up, including Pastor Jesse, who married Charlotte and I. And I'm just like, whoa, like it's just, it blew my mind. We go through the process, the judge ends up saying you can go home that night. I leave, DA leaves, but we didn't sign the paperwork.
Yes, and Little Tish,
who actually named her sports car after me, which I love. She takes off into the courthouse to look. She's like, I'll find him.
No, okay, so we go down the elevator. She goes running through the courtyard. She's like, hey. Wow. And she's screaming, and she grabs the guy.
Wow.
He gets back in the elevator, and this is the part. He said, I've never seen a case like this.
Wow.
I've never seen a case like this.
Because he looked confused. You remember when between the judge and him, they were like, I guess, I don't know, okay.
There was nothing. Yeah. They have nothing on you, yet they're creating
this thing. It's wild.
So, Siaka, I love you so much, but we're running out of time.
Oh, we ran out of time?
Yeah, I know. I could talk to you for like 2 hours.
No, this is great. Yeah, this is fantastic. I gotta go see the wife about the baby.
Well, not tonight. We'll plan something after the baby.
Yes.
Okay, so tell people where they can donate to support your defense fund and where they can find you.
Cool. So you can go to defendsiaka.com. That's defend SIAKA.com. It will link you to my Give Send Go, which is for Siaka's legal defense. One thing I want to point out is that I did plead not guilty, so we're taking this all the way.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that does take money. And what they do is when you ask for your Brady material, and why a lot of people have been taking pleas, unfortunately, because they can't afford to, then they drop everything they have about January 6th on each person. So even if you're on the grass, they drop what was happening inside. So now if your lawyers have to shift through that, that's going to cost you. So we are going and with great donations, we're getting up to 100. We got up to 172,000. We want to get to about 210 just to make sure we cover everything. But we thank you guys for where we are now, but just understand we're going to be in this for the long haul, and that's just going to cost.
And that's why I believe God's going to use your case, because you're fighting it. Yeah. And I thank God that you are.
I think it can help people.
I think it can too.
Turned over. And so also you can find me at siakamassaquoi.us. That's my website. So you can see all the stuff that I have been doing, some comedies on there, as well as the Babylon Bee interview with what happened in the longer form. And it will take you to a donation page as well. But you can find me there, and then links to all my social media. So either go to defendsiaka.com or siakamassaquoi.us.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I could talk to this man forever. He's a dear friend, and what has happened to him is not justice. Tune in next week when we have the producers for Letter to the American Church. And we're going to expose cultural Marxism in our society. I'm Lori Mills. You can find me on X at Lori, oh God, when you try to say it yourself.
I know,
Lori
right?
Mills, the number 4, CA42. And you can also please follow and like our new Rumble channel now that we're on video at Uncover Cali, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.